How you guys doing? It's Mike back with the thought of the day on May 3rd, 2024. First, I want to give the honor and praise to the Elohim of Israel for waking me up and giving me the strength and the wisdom to bring you this message. Then I'd like to open with the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Today I want to talk about how my expectations throughout my life were too high, and it came from my lack of acceptance. See, part of being alcoholic or addict, and many other people in the world suffer from our expectations be extremely too high. I know my expectations of other people were so high that nobody will be able to reach them. And when I saw that, I felt that the expectations that I had for those people weren't being able to be reached, I grew disgruntled and angry when in essence it was all my fault because my expectations were ridiculous. And that's part of the disease of alcoholism that I had. So, which means I had that state of thinking before I even picked up a drink. I could just start with my marriages. I remember going into a AA meeting a few years ago, and this guy said something that was profound, and it went over my head at first. He said before he came into AA, he thought his wife was the only person that was married, the only one that was married. And at first it went over my head, then I thought about it, and then I said, that was me. I put my first wife on a pedestal, and she had to do everything right, but yet I wasn't doing anything right. I wasn't leading as the head. I wasn't doing anything that I was supposed to do in terms of being a spiritual husband. But I put this standard on her that was unreachable, and that was totally unfair. I remember my ridiculous thought process back then was just out of this world. It was the arrogance, it was the partying and drinking, and it was the whole lifestyle and my whole mentality getting caught up in the hip hop culture and stuff. And I remember me and her was arguing about when not arguing but having a discussion when like Michael Jordan got caught cheating on his wife, and she said that was wrong. And in my mind, I think it started with Michael Jordan, and we started talking about the Kobe situation. And in my mind, I really told her that Michael Jordan should have been able to have another wife, another chick, because of the lifestyle that he gave his wife. I know that sounds crazy, but I really told her that. And that was just my train of thought. And my expectations was that if you have this certain kind of lifestyle, that your woman should understand if you was to able to have other women. And that was just barbaric and ridiculous for me to think like that, but that's how I thought. And it was wrong. But that comes from my expectations of where she's supposed to be and how she's supposed to think, not understanding that she had her own trauma, she had her own life growing up. She went through a lot of different things, and she got her own feelings and emotions. I didn't think like that. For some crazy reason, I thought God molded her just to do what I needed and do what I wanted. And that was totally retarded. But that comes from expectations. You get what I'm saying? In my second marriage, I was just so out of it, worrying about the case and worrying about going to jail and worrying about the trial and being in alcoholism, that it was just a blur. You know what I'm saying? So I can't even go into detail on the expectations that I might have had in that situation, but I was just gone. The expectations is a serious thing. And I had to understand that whenever I'm mad over somebody's expectations, it ain't them, it's my fault. There's something wrong with me that makes me think that it's okay for me to have these expectations on these people. The next one came with my mom. When you're young and you look at the after school specials and you taught in school on how this perfect parent's supposed to be and this and that, I had those expectations on her. You know what I'm saying? And I talked about it before that my mom was real strict and she didn't have emotions. She didn't really show those kind of emotions of loving and kissing and hugging you and this and blah blah blah. And I had a resentment towards that. But then when I did my steps with my second sponsor, and he looked at my mom, and he saw her on my list, and we talked about it, and he asked me, yo, did you go to college? Yeah. Did you go to was you ever locked up anything? I said, no. Did you have everything you needed and most of what you wanted? I said, yeah. He said, well, how old was she when she had you? I said, 16. He said, well, what are your expectations? Like, this is you. This is not her. You got these ridiculous expectations, and that's not the reality of it. You owe her an amends. So then I had to go to my mom and make amends. I never treated my mom cruel or talked back. I never even raised my voice at my mom before. But it was a feeling inside of me, that the feeling of content and some resentment towards that. And it was because my arrogant mindset is, anybody that deal with me better be perfect when they dealing with me. And that's retarded. And I was wrong for that. So I had to go and admit to her that I apologized, and she cried because I could tell she was carrying that. And that's the expectations that the world put on us, that our parents supposed to be perfect, and not understanding they went through their own stuff growing up. I later found out that my grandma raised her like that, so she didn't know no difference. She was just doing what she was taught. So I had to make that one. And finally, when it came to friendships, you know what I'm saying? My friendships were that, yo, if I'm going all hard for my friends, and I was the type of person that would go hard for my friends and give my lives literally and do everything, I thought that it was supposed to be reciprocated, and I thought that people would have the same urgency and people would care as much as I cared, and that's just not the case. And it was because of my expectations once again. I don't know how these guys were raised. I don't know the different things they went through. I don't know the different traumas they had that affects them with dealing with relationships, especially with friends. And my expectations were so high that, especially when I made it a point to do certain things to try to appease them and keep friendships going. But then I had to understand that that's me not being able to accept those people for who they are. They got their own things going on. They got their own life going on. The world don't revolve around me. And that was something tough for me to accept until I had to do my step work, and I had to really look at myself and say, all this stuff stems from my expectations of other people. So now I accept people for who they are. And don't be offended by who they are. And I pray for them that whatever they dealing with, they get past. And I hope they do likewise for me. But I wanted to, this was on my spirit to talk about this, because our expectations of other people leads to a lot of our feelings, a lot of depression, a lot of different factors in our lives. And in reality, we have to accept them because those people just being who they are. And learn them and try to understand why they're not fulfilling these ridiculous expectations that you have. And try to be nicer to yourself and nicer to other people. This, Mike, enjoy your day. Shalom.